Good morning, everyone. We will start shortly. I will remind everyone that it is a requirement now in the clubhouse that you must wear masks. Mabel, would you do roll call, please?
President Davidson,
Present.
Vice President Ricketts,
Present.
Secretary Kincaid, absent. Treasurer Hahn,
Present.
Director Argo, Director Hector,
Barely.
Director Lynch,
Here.
Director Suave, Director Setzer. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Then I'll call the meeting to order. It is 9:31, and we please rise to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would request a motion to approve the July 2nd Federation Board meeting. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes for the July 2nd Federation Board minutes are approved. And I will turn the meeting over to Keith for the First Service Management report.
Good morning, everybody. Coming in hot. This is the August 6th First Service Management Report for the Board of Directors. Again, just to note that all Federation Board of Directors presently sitting on the board are current owners of the condominium parcels they reside in and are paid up on their maintenance fees as of yesterday, August 5th. Again, operations under COVID, we've shifted back under the guidance with the land trust and the building we occupy to have masks throughout our lobby. So we are shifting back as well. And internally, our First Service policy is we're masking up all of our staff as well inside the building and inside their offices. So we're, again, kindly asking everybody when they come in to wear the masks and just be cautious. Again, we're still available with the payment drop boxes, calling in the office, again, walking in, welcome everybody still. So if you need us, we're right over there. A couple administration stats for the month of July. There were 35 transfers completed and 31 leases. So we're seeing a little slight drop off in the summer months. We did 609 pest control appointments. We had 3,400 phone calls and roughly 1,200 walk-ins. There were 43 orientations done. Again, these are one-on-one orientations with a team member and the new owner inside the office. We did 52 alteration request forms, 27 violations were issued. We did 159 added invoices processed and 8 contracts drawn up. A couple notes for the board on the insurance. First Service Residential and USI are still offering to any association to attend any of their upcoming board meetings just to go over anything insurance related. If they want to talk about HO6 policies, hurricane deductibles, loss assessments, anything in general, we're welcome to come to any meeting. I know we've done several and USI has done a bunch as well. So just let us know and call us directly. Pest control appointments, the month of July did see another increase. We've been working through some rain delays and rescheduling. They are still inside the 3-day appointment window. We've doubled up multiple days this week and 3 next week, so we're adding where is needed. Trash collection. Something's going on with trash out there. So Hillsborough County, several weeks ago made a decision to approve a new contract with Zone 3 now, which is your zone for Kings Point, specifically Sun City Center. Doing so disrupted Waste Connections operations because their contract will end January 30th, 2022. So obviously with that can come some issues with staffing if people are leaving and obviously keeping people on. So the residential trash contract is ending with the county that time, and as well as the commercial trash contract will also end. So, we're doing our best to try to work with the commercial side, account managers, to feed us any information about any updates on the residential side in a timely manner, and we're trying to push out anything we can to you about delays or shifting pickup schedules. So sometimes those come out slightly at a time, sometimes we're behind, so we're trying to help just as a courtesy to let folks know what's going on so trash isn't sitting outside for multiple days in the hot sun. I have been in preliminary discussions with some of the other commercial contractors for waste pickup on the dumpster side, so as we proceed for the next couple of months, we'll be getting bids on that side. They can't officially start sending bids and doing negotiations till October 1st. I think that's a county ordinance that they have, that they can't talk to anybody officially about contracts until then. And there will be some shifting in the condominium unit owners that have the disposal side of the commercial trash on their tax account. So they'll be seeing a reduction on their county taxes for trash disposal. That's the disposal fees at the dumps. The county's removing that and it's shifting back over, which will now be part of the commercial contract, which will be paid through the condominium fees. So there'll be a decrease in county taxes for the commercial unit owners, and we'll see a rise in the commercial contract costs. So that is something I'm just pre-warning the board and everybody about that. So that's a lot more to come on that for sure, and we'll talk about transitioning with the commercial dumpsters and the whole gambit.
One thing, when you speak of commercial contract, you're speaking of the dumpsters.
The 2 and 4 yard dumpsters. Spectrum. So Spectrum has advised us of the recent speed lift of the internet services from 100 to 200 megabits. We worked up a notification with Spectrum, did test it, worked with Tom Murphy trying to make sure everything was set up and ready to go. Spectrum said they were good. We sent it out, and there was a big mix-up on their internal note system about the accounts inside Kings Point, that there should be a speed lift, they should not be a charge. So we do apologize for that, and we apologize on behalf of Spectrum for confusing folks. They did fix the issue internally this week, so we're going to be trying to reissue the statement, letting folks know they can call back in. They can let them know they're with the bulk contract, and there should be no charge to get a new modem out if you self-install it. So as long as you don't have to have a technician come out, there's no charge for it. If you have any questions, please give me a call. I know it is a little bit of a confusing process. Hurricane season, we are still in the middle of the hurricane season. The Disaster Planning Committee is still meeting regularly to continue to push out information. As it comes up, we'll obviously put out more and more information if the storm comes near. And we did want to thank everybody that participated and attended the Hurricane Symposium. It was an extremely well-attended event, lots of information. If you didn't walk out with one good piece of information, it was hard. There's just so much there. So thank you for Liz and the committee and everybody that helped with that. So it was a great event, and we'll be doing it again next year. I'll let you leave to announce that. Landscaping, again, last week we had the first landscaping workshop. We had Ryan Work doing kind of landscape expectations 101. Liz Argott presented just kind of palm tree expectations on trimming. So we're going to be doing those once a month, normally at the end of the month, to just kind of talk about landscaping. There'll always be some kind of key topic and a question and answer session, so another outlet for the residents and association boards to come and talk with us and get some information. We're working on the vendor contracts again. The communication was sent out to all the board of directors, so we're looking for information on the landscape contract that will renew April 1st, 2022. So anything that you read in that contract that was sent out, please let us know, give us feedback. We're working with the committee on a regular basis to get that finalized over the next couple of weeks and sent out. Landscape grading, there was a shift in the landscape grading methodology. We are now doing a combined grading inspection with First Service and OLM. So we're doing weekly inspections now on all the landscaping. So we're hoping the weekly inspections and grading in a new format will help improve the quality of the landscapers and the account managers and their attentiveness and anticipation of needs throughout the community. We've seen increased communication and reporting, so we're hoping that progresses even more and we see a better product in the long run. Let's see, we're at palm trees real quick. The major trimming portion of the palm trees has been completed. There still are several final punch list items that Browns is working through. There are various palms in the back of some of the Section 4 houses that we still can't get to with the saturation and the rain this week. And there's some street lights that still need to be cleared out of debris. Mulch packages, we still have the mulch packages in our office. For those associations, those are due by the end of August 31st, so please get with us on those. Work orders for the month of July were 57. Most of those came in the form of requests, with 22 requests. Average day to complete was about 3.5 days. And a couple other notes, the board has in their package, but we're going to be holding a technology workshop at the end of August on the 25th. This workshop is going to be intended to discuss ClickPay, which is a payment processing methodology for any unit owners. And we'll also be talking about association websites and signing up for those. So keep an eye out. We're going to be sending that out shortly. Hoping to get more people signed up on those and just, again, more information for the community and how to use the technology at hand. I think that is it.
There is just one thing that I want to note in your report, which you were discussing, the trash collection, which I know the community is a little aggravated with because of the collection of the trash bins that people have rolled out to the end of their driveway. If you folks find that your trash is not collected, the correct individual to call is the county, more so than Keith, because Keith turns around and calls the county and says, what is going on with Waste Connections? Now, we do have contacts with Waste Connections, but our contracts are mainly for the commercial side, not the general residential collection. And First Service sent out an article that was in the paper last week that was published in the Tampa Bay Times, directed at Waste Connections of pick it up or they're going to pay fees for it. I also know that Waste Connections sent out to all the residents a card on what they were doing in the meantime, but if you find your trash not picked up, you're going to get a greater result by contacting the county, because it's the county that really is going to be pushing Waste Connections and finding Waste Connections for their failure to perform between now and the end of January. I know Keith is there to help, but he's just going to call the county anyway. When it comes to the pickup of the dumpsters, you can give Keith a call, but basically for all of the residential pickup, it is a county service. It is not contracted by the Federation or by First Service, and it's best that you pick up the phone and call the county trash collection solid waste services and let them know they've missed it. The board have any other questions for Keith?
Just a quick question, your work order by type, your last type is brown, you mean the tree and oak trimming, is that the Brown company or is it brown grass? What is
That's
brown?
brown grass. It's Brown's Tree Service. Those are the ones that came through the Connect system. During the monthly maintenance cycle, Ryan had over 200 items noticed on his side through work orders and through communication with the community. And then Brown's themselves is also going around to them. That's the monthly,
Tree.
yeah,
Ginger, I'll turn the meeting over for the Festa report.
Thank you. All righty, there is a lot going on. I won't read all the numbers to the board. It is,
Amen.
however, we have our active fitness program. If you can take your eyes to the spa and salon usage, you can see where spa services 24% less than last July, which was during COVID, and that is due to a massage therapist who was very popular and left. We've had that job posted for months, and you can see the impact that has on the services over there. Very popular service, simply had no applicants. We have actually offered a job to somebody who is actually relocating or locating to Florida. So we look to see that usage go up over the last part of this year. Also in food and beverage, you can see favorable to plan there. I didn't mean to put $2 signs. It looks like I was really excited about that. But total sales for July up about 17%. And if you recall, when we created that budget, it was last, fall during COVID, had no idea what it looked like. So for the first quarter, we thought we'd have less usage. So that's a nice little bump there. On projects, we'll just go through these quickly. The surveillance camera enhancement project has been completed. You will see some signage up in places that are required that various areas are being surveilled. And what that is for is obviously if there are things that happen, slip and falls or a theft, and the idea is that we'll be able to review that footage and see what happened. Victoria has, here we go Jack, moisture intrusion. She has contacted another engineer to see if they would visit the property. We're just going to be really dedicated to getting somebody in here to give us some feedback on this barrier that is decayed on the foundation here in the main clubhouse. On the projects ongoing at the South Club is 20 years old, so you will see a lot of renovation there. Most residents are aware the roof replacement project's underway that Victoria reports that's about 90% done. And then after that, the pool cabana buildings will be done. The South Deck Pool Expansion Project received final approval of the architectural plans. Now the RFP process has begun, and Victoria's contacted several GCs to come out and do a site visit and begin preparing their bids, which we will provide all that information back to the board once we receive the packages. The Jubilee partition door replacement project's underway. Those doors are being fabricated and hope to be done in September, and then we will schedule the installation of that after the flooring is completed. The floor replacement's underway. The old floor has been demoed, and the new floor installation is estimated to be done by the end of August. I think they're moving along nicely down there. The interior painting project is underway in the lobby and loft areas, and they'll be moving throughout the building in sections, and that will take several weeks to complete. We are trying to work around operations and clubs and things to impact the usage by the residents as little as possible. It's not perfect, but we do try to get in there when makes the most sense. In Jubilee Hall, we have the Jubilee Hall bar renovation. We had some plumbing installed in there, and countertops been ordered, and that'll be installed after the flooring. And finally, 25-ton HVAC unit is estimated to begin installation at the beginning of September. Will take about 4 or 5 days. So as you can see, there's a lot of work being done there. Congratulations again to Victoria. It's been really overwhelming amount of projects and vendors to coordinate, and she's so far so good, done quite well. So thank you, Victoria. On special,
While you're on the project,
Yep.
When do you expect the air conditioning system at 1904 to be replaced?
it's already done.
It's already done,
Yeah.
because it wasn't in here. And
Oh, I think it was on the last report. That's been, you've had that for a while. Yeah, that's done.
Because we just approved it last month, so.
We're quick.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do that.
So it's no longer a sweatshop over there.
Not on that. So with Matthew and his special event team, a couple things to report here. The movie sales have slowed a bit. We still had 150 tickets sold. Next movie up is Mulan. We've got the monthly dinners have returned. Those are planned for August 30th. The Queen's Luncheon scheduled for noon in the Veterans Theater on August 4th. Winter Series contracts have been finalized and the brochures will be going out. Again, always previous ticket holders for season tickets get first shot at those, and then the subscribers, they get priority seating, and after that it's open to the pick fours and other interested buyers. Also, there's a number of health events partnered with Advent Health to bring in the mobile mammograms on August 30th. I believe all those time slots have been filled. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're still looking at it.
They're still looking to add some more because people were very positive about wanting to utilize that program. August 11th, Sertona Speech and Hearing will bring in a hearing clinic. We have a dermatology exam clinic coming in on August 16th. And we're currently attempting to secure dates for the flu shots. That's always an overwhelmingly popular program here in Kings Point, where the residents can just come up to the clubhouse and get their shots. And finally, bus trips are selling extremely well. Kings Point offering trips through Glory Tours and the Sun City Center Travel Club. Finally, in security, I won't read all the numbers. It's August, so you will see some declines over the prior month. But in notables, we had a security guard observe the golf cart gate arm being badly damaged. One section bent almost at a 90-degree angle. We did review the camera surveillance. The driver scans his badge. I actually saw this, scans it and just drives her straight into the bar. Gets out and he starts taking pictures of the bar. It's like, wait. Another guy stops and they're all looking at the bar. The problem is we can't really see any tag identification. It's a pretty identifiable golf cart, so we're looking for that. They did find it? Just got it, just in. We just figured out who this fellow is, so he will be receiving a love letter from me and an invoice that we'd like him to replace the gate, or the amount of the gate arm replacement. And then finally, Jack mentioned this also, Keith did, the requirement for masks in the clubhouse. We do ask residents very respectfully who object to this policy to please refrain from, shall we say, being hostile with the staff. They're just implementing the policy, as they say, don't shoot the messenger. We'll get through it together. Hopefully it won't be forever, but we appreciate your patience with that.
I'm going to ask only because the Federation received a letter from a resident regarding why we allow the Sun City Travel Club to sell tickets in Kings Point for their travel club tours, and we just do not rely upon Glory Tours. I think some of the facts are that when you go through the Sun City Travel Club, a lot of the tours that they provide would be cheaper than through the Glory Tours alone, and it is nothing more than a convenience for the residents of Sun City. The Travel Club of Sun City does not have an office here. They do not meet here. They only offer the service that residents of Kings Point can purchase tickets from their travel club. That is the only service which they're offering. Am I correct?
That is correct. In addition to that, our residents are picked up here. They don't have to go across the street to purchase tickets, so it's a convenience. They get it for a lower price, and it's increased competition to lower the pricing for our residents.
Yeah, so it is a convenience, and it's a lower price than going through, and they don't have to go across the street to pick up their tickets. That's why we do it. The tickets are sold, I would assume, at the box office for those, or where are they sold?
In the lobby.
In the lobby, so we allow them to put up a table in the lobby. It is a convenience for the residents. It is not promoting Sun City Travel Club. It is for residents who want to go on one of those
Have
tours.
additional options for trips.
It's an
yeah.
additional option to them, and basically, and I saw Matt shaking his head, it is less expensive than us arranging a travel tour or using Glory Tours because of the volume, I guess, that Sun City gets for their residents as well as ours to be able to use those. So it is a convenience. It isn't something that we necessarily promote or grant them an office space within Sun City, Kings Point, to sell their tickets. We give them a space in the lobby to assist the residents.
And I will just add, it was also a resident request to have somebody besides Glory Tours. Some folks go on those or didn't like those, and so they actually said, can you get the other bus group in there? And that was probably a couple years ago that they asked that, so.
Okay, and I just wanted to clarify that because we did get correspondence and they did question why they're here. Dan, are you on the phone?
I am, Mr. President.
Mr. Armstrong,
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I'm going to put the mic next to the phone so the whole room will be able to hear you. Dan is going to go over the first quarter preliminary financial statement for the trust. So Dan, I'm going to turn the call over to you.
Thank you, and good morning, board. Today, we're talking about the first quarter, which ends June 30th. You have your typical 8-page financial statement, and I'll try to go through quickly talking about only the big changes in particular. Starting on page 1, this is your statement of financial position, as you know, otherwise called the balance sheet. There's quite a bit of action in the first section, so I'll spend just a moment on it. That, of course, is cash. If you look at the total of that line item in your right-hand column, you can see there's a change in cash, a decrease of about $427,000. That definitely requires comment. Significantly, the bulk of the action is basically a transfer that the board approved in the 2021-22 budget between the capital reserves. There's been $275,000 moving out of that into the replacement reserves, and then the operating reserve transferred $151,000. That's the second line item, that change column, into the replacement reserves. That was done in an effort to make sure that we keep the replacement assessment, which is the portion of your assessment that takes care of all of the existing assets. So we're trying to keep that as level as possible. And there are some larger years coming up where larger amounts of improvements are going to be necessary. As Ginger mentioned, the South Club, for instance, is 20 years old now, so it's entering a phase of significant refurbishments. So those transfers were done to help offset that, keep the replacement reserves in good shape. We're currently undergoing a tri-annual reserve study, so we'll have updated figures for this year's budget process, and I anticipate that it's going to look real good as far as that assessment goes. So overall, though, the $427,000 decrease in that section is more than just moving those numbers. So what happened then? The most significant item, well, there's two significant items, excuse me. If you go down to the second section, the fourth line item, prepaids and other current assets, look at the number in the left-hand column compared to the right-hand column of the change. It's about $230,000 higher than at year-end. That's because our annual insurance renewal occurs every May 1st. So $300,000 insurance policy is renewed in cash, and then it reduces over the year. So there's a lot of cash expended for that. And then the second item, which we'll cover a little bit on another couple pages, is that as Ginger mentioned, Victoria is well ahead of the year in taking care of some of the projects on this year. The capital refurbishments or replacements, I should use the proper word, is about $1.52 billion budgeted this year. And she's about $180,000 ahead of the pace that straight lining of that would indicate. The cash is gone, nothing to worry about. Now I'll pick it up, I promise. As you can see, the third section there, property and equipment, there's no changes, as we've stated every year. We don't capitalize assets during the year so that you can compare them to budget as the year goes on, and then we capitalize them at the end of the year, so no changes there. Going on down past the break for total assets into the first section, the current liabilities, you can see there's some fairly significant adjustments in accounts payable and unearned sales revenue of about $50,000 a piece, looking at the change column. Those are just pretty normal changes as things ramp up. As we're getting a little more activity, and hopefully that's not stopping, we end up with amounts payable on any given month end. In your long-term debt section, the next section down, you got a $386,000 change so far this year. That's just your 3 monthly payments that have been made. And the same thing in your amortization line items, by the way, those are being amortized monthly, so they will always be changing, but those are according to the length of the asset, they're being amortized over the asset's life. All right, so let's pick it up and go to page 2. Page 2, I generally just describe and don't go into the numbers. This is the statement of financial position in the detail form. It shows the trust in the first column and the operating divisions in the next 3 columns with an elimination and then an aggregate in the right-hand column, which ties to the page we just looked at. So you can see that the columns sometimes have big, large, empty areas for the rec, security, and transportation in areas that they don't have activity or balances, I should say. And then the reverse is true for things like accounts receivable, inventory, prepaids. Those areas do have those, and the trust may not, the first column. But anyway, this page combines and ties to the page that we just looked at. So let's move to page 3. Statement of cash activities, otherwise known as the profit and loss or income statement. A lot of names for it, depending on what world you come from. This is the aggregate page, and we're comparing to budget now, not prior year. So the first column is your first 3 months compared to the budget for the first 3 months. Let's just look at the section totals on this page, and I'll talk more details on the next 4 pages. Total revenues, right-hand column, you can see $48,000 favorable to budget. That's really good news. As Ginger talked about with food and beverage and the spa, they're opposite. Of course, we're over in food and beverage and under in spa, but overall 48 grand is good. Next subtotal, total operating expenses. You can see, look at that, right dead on budget. $4,800 under budget. So when you bring in revenue over budget and operating expenses are under budget, obviously that means it's a pretty good result. Next subtotal, income loss from operations, right-hand column, you can see it's about $53,000 favorable. So that's a real good result for a quarter that we didn't know what was going to look like. Obviously, budgeting was a little hard to afford, but we anticipated that it would be slower, and it wasn't quite as slow as we anticipated, which is good. So the last section, other income and expenses, those are all your items that are generally almost always right on budget. Management fee pass-through, depreciation expense, don't expect any variation there. The only variation or variances in the right-hand column you can see is interest income. That's your interest on your CDs of your investments that's dropped off the face of the earth, of course. And then board-approved non-budgeted items, that won't have a budget just by definition. So when the board approves a special item that comes up that wasn't in the budget, it's going to have a variance, obviously. And the total, bottom right-hand corner, $38,725 favorable to budget. So that's a good result for the quarter, considering all the unknowns. Page 4. Page 4 is just the details behind page 3. Same thing. Everything totals to the right, and the right-hand column agrees to the left-hand column of the prior page. So you guys can always ask questions about that, but I won't try to go into that much detail in this setting. Page 5. Page 5 begins the actual versus budget by reporting department. Again, we've got just 1 quarter so far this year, so we eliminated the second set of 3 columns. and you just got the 3 months versus the budget for the months and the variance. The two variances that we talked about on the first page in the bottom section shows up here in the trust. That's where your interest earnings are off budget because of the time involved where we budget 18 months in advance. We had no idea what was going to occur in the economy, of course. And then the non-budgeted items with the $7,400 variance totaling to a FIT variance, bottom right-hand corner I'm looking at, of $14,125 to budget. All right, page 5, luckily it's a small budget. Page 5, 6, pardon me, is the rec area budget. The bulk of the variances that we talked about on the consolidated page do occur in the rec area. That same $48,000 favorable variance and income is right there, right-hand side of the first section. And then go on down to the very bottom. You can see the change in net assets for the division is $46,000 favorable to budget. A $295,000 loss compared to a $341,000 budget. Now, why would we budget $341,000 negative? Good question. It's actually just a function of the timing of the replacements, the property replacements. Go up in the expense section, 4 from the bottom, the property replacement expenses, you can see $579,000 rounded, spent against the $578,000 budget. That is what Ginger was referring to about Victoria doing a really good job of moving projects forward early in the year, particularly in a period where there's less people on property. So it's always good to get that done. So that won't continue at that pace, obviously, because we didn't budget that much. And therefore, the negative change in assets at the very bottom will trend back towards zero for the year. All right, page 7 is security department. Let's go straight to the bottom line. It's a small department, not a lot of activity. Right-hand column is a positive number of $5,800. That's good. That means they're $5,800 favorable to the budget. A net loss of $6,600. Remember, we do budget a loss in security and transportation because we've been, the excess cash flow has to be rolled over and used in the prior year, the succeeding year's budget. So we actually budget a loss there. And it's not just timing related like the last lost budget that we talked about on the prior page. So $5,800 favorable, and then finally the last page, again, a positive number in the right-hand column, which is good. So we have a favorable variance of about $1,000 on a net income of $9,700. Excuse me, I should not use the word net income. It's the change in net assets in the nonprofit. I do that a lot. All right, that's it. Any questions come up during that?
Any questions from the board? Dan, you are fortunate, there are no questions from the board, and you will be able to hang up and go do your job.
All right, I think I'm actually going to stay on mute and listen. I may hang up sometime later, but I appreciate it very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan. The wonders of having a speakerphone and a mic. We'll move to committee reports. Liz, do you have anything?
Well, I'd like to ditto what Keith said about the symposium.
I can only ask you to steal the mic that's in front of Ryan.
As I said, I have to ditto what Keith said about the Kings Point leadership team putting together a fantastic symposium, and we are continuing to work. One of the things that we're looking at is memorializing all of the hard work we came up with as we were preparing for the symposium. That way we will have all of that to go back and refer to, and will not have to start from scratch like the team did this year. We have already projected for our 2022 symposium, and that's will be March 7th at this date. Life happens, but that's what we're projecting, so stay tuned. And the tree committee was happy to be able to provide that education piece at the first service landscape seminar, and we will be continuing to look at further education pieces to tie into that program. And pollen fertilization is a hot topic, and we are really looking at where that is and where it needs to go.
Thank you, Liz. Dan, you have anything? I know you're going to be doing the audit later when we get to new business. Do you have anything else that you?
Yeah, the work of the audit committee is complete. The work of the audit committee is complete, and the contracts committee has nothing at this time.
Tom?
In regards to the landscape committee, I think that he covered pretty much where we're at the current time. We have some other things going that we're discussing within the committee itself. But we haven't finalized those things yet to be able to bring out to a public meeting.
Alan? I know you have the treasurer's report, but we can get to that. Do you have anything else?
Just to talk about the audit.
No, we can get to, you can talk about the audit, about the Federation. That's what you're,
Yeah, not much, but the Federation has contracted with Page and Company. They're performing the audit of last year's Federation. It's in progress. Most of the work should be done very soon. As you may know, a full audit, they have to contact the attorneys and get information from attorneys about potential things that might affect the Federation. And since the lawsuit's going on in Travelers, they have to contact, and they're still working to get all the information from attorneys. That's all. That's all I have.
Barb, do you have anything?
Yes, in regards to the promotions committee, now that they have the local portion of their project satiated, they're working on the website and taking care to make sure that we appear at the top of the search engines. So I'm eager to see what their final results are.
Okay.
Jack? I forgot to do one thing. USI, who is our insurance agent, brokers rather, put together this Kings Point, Sun City Center, Florida disaster planning. And it's geared for us. And Keith, it's in their little turnaround filer there that people can pick up forms and documents. And it's a wonderful piece to have. It has lots of information, and we're very fortunate to be able to have this done for us. So pick them up if you don't have them.
I would only say that we only have a limited number of them left. I don't know how many you have, Keith.
We just got a fresh box yesterday from Ryan, so I think we have about 200 additional ones that came in. We are going to be emailing out the booklet in digital form next week with some information, so that'll go to everybody as well. So
In PDF form.
in PDF form. Yeah.
So any resident who is looking for it, although we may not have
The hard
6,000, 7,000 copies of it, they can get it in digital PDF
Yeah.
format.
Correct.
And thank you, Liz, for the work you did with USI in getting them to print that. I know that printing is not inexpensive to have done, so I appreciate the work that you did with USI and them producing that booklet for the residents.
Yes, and I have to say, USI was more than eager to put this together for us, so we thank them.
And from what I hear, they also provided a Panera breakfast at your meeting. Is that correct?
They certainly did, and it was well received. So when we planned yesterday, we gave them the nod. So, what about Symposium 2022? Panera's again? And he said, more cookies, they're easier to handle.
And Ellen, I will turn it over to you for your first quarter treasurer's report.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, as you can see, Board, I put in the page of budget transfers, just FYI for starters. Because we began this year with budget transfers that were approved by the Federation and by the membership. And we transferred money from the registration fees, $62,000, almost $63,000 from the registration fees, and transferred almost $21,000 out of just the general members' equity account. That $21,000 went into the community promotion account, the reserve account. The registration fee, $63,000, went into really three other accounts, about $20,000 to the landscape and $20,000 to grounds cleanup, to bring both of those to a balance of $50,000 each in case, and that's kind of, I think, our goal, in case we have tornadoes, in case we have hurricanes, in case we have issues that create some difficulties in our landscape and in our grounds cleanup, so we have money to take care of that. And then also the professional services account received almost $23,000. That money offsetted the budget amounts, your assessments. So your assessments were quite a bit lower this year based on last year because of those transfers. So I just want to reiterate that. Now, to get to the report, first page or next page is the financial position. You can see in our current assets we have $52,382. Restricted reserve funds were $526,277, and we'll explain that later what that is. The next page shows the budgeted revenue, which is the assessments, about $20,601 received, right on target, right on budget. And in addition to that, we received $19,593 in other revenue, mainly the transfer fees, represents the amounts sold that we received, $100 for a transfer for a sale and $50 for a lease. That's for the first quarter, almost $20,000. So on track at the rate of about $80,000 a year, and I think historically we received between $60,000 and $80,000 a year from those transfer fees. And I know that's on the agenda to talk about that too. Of course, the law limits the amount that condominiums can receive, 100, 150. Just as an FYI, across the street, Sun City Center, their transfer fee is $3,000 now, I understand. Every time a house is sold, they get $3,000. That's why they can do a lot of building without borrowing money. They can do that because they don't have condominiums. HOAs don't have the same limit as condominiums. So going to the expenditures, they're just well below budget. Administrative items, we spent about $449. Utilities, $519. The contracts is actually a negative number, and that's only because the bug guys billed the wrong amount. That'll be corrected, that was corrected in July, so that'll be corrected on the next report. So then the last page, again, is the reserve accounts. As you can see, landscape and grounds cleanup each have $50,000 in their balance. Insurance deductible is, again, a fabulous quarter. Expenditure is $2,427 is all that was expended for the Interagency Task Force. Fabulous, everybody take care of things and be safety, prevent fires and floods and things. The balance in that account is $138,000 and some change. The legal fund is, of course, at $25,000. The professional services account is at $101,000. Of course, the revenue from fees and from the transfer that I talked about earlier was $35,000. $17,692 was spent last quarter in professional services account, mainly for legal fees. The contracts account spent $14,250. That again is the first half of this year, the additional palm fertilizations. We're contracting, we're paying for 2 of them. 2 of them are included in the landscape contract. We're paying for an additional 2, so that's 1 of those for this year, the contract. Community promotions account, again, the revenues for that, including the budget transfer, $2,428 was spent last quarter for the community promotions. And the registration fees, revenue, $19,550, and of course expenditures at $63,000 about that was transferred out from the budget, showing a balance of $91,306 in the registration fees to reserve account. So that's my report. Any questions?
The only thing I want to make note of is as we enter the second, third quarter, we will have a lot of contract work because Keith will be working on the new, I'm going to call them dumpster, the new commercial contract. We will be doing the new landscape contract, which will possibly go out for RFP, which will involve additional legal expenses along with the review by legal. So we are expecting to incur legal expenses from that perspective. Am I correct? So when we look at that balance in there, we will have a number of contracts that will be done. Plus, I'm not sure, doesn't Spectrum come up for a review too this year?
You're like 18 months out of stuff.
It's 18 months, so we still have another year to go on that. That takes it to the President's report. I know the gentleman who has been beat up this week severely is sitting in the room. As of Monday, Vesta met with the Federation Board, had a pretty good conversation on where to go with the spread of the coronavirus due to the Delta variant. Matt had spoken to the hospital, he had spoken to the emergency squad. I know yesterday Vesta sent out a public service announcement from Chief Bardell of the emergency squad as to actually what is going on. At that time, it was determined we were not going to reduce activities within the clubhouse whatsoever. The only thing we were going to do is require for the protection of unvaccinated and vaccinated individuals due to breakthroughs that masks would be required. Depending upon what happens over the next few weeks, and hopefully we will see a decrease in the number of cases. Florida is one of the leading states in infection of the COVID. We felt for the protection of all individuals within Kings Point that asking individuals to wear masks in the clubhouse was the best way to go without having to cut back on services, cut back on offerings that we are doing within the clubhouse and our planning for future activities. We can't just turn them on and off very easily, so we determined that masks would be the best alternative And I know for some individuals it's not popular. I know Matt got a number of emails saying, thank you, I appreciate it. I know a number of businesses are now requiring masks in their stores and stuff. And it's just a way of protecting the community. If it's an inconvenience, the land trust apologizes, but as we said from day one, in March of 2020, which seems like forever ago, we would follow the guidance of the CDC. The CDC suggested wearing masks indoors, and we will continue to follow the CDC guidelines and the medical science guidelines on what is best for the residents of Kings Point. And Matt, I appreciate all of the work you've done in answering the multitudes of emails you got. The last I spoke to, you know, it was about 75% favorable, 25% negative. Is that still standing?
I'd say that's right on.
Okay. So at least we are getting the majority of support from the community of wearing them. And I do not like wearing a mask. I would just as soon have meetings where we didn't have to wear masks, but at least we're having meetings and we're not closing them down. We're still having bingo, we're still doing rock and rendezvous, we're still doing trivia. The only thing we're asking is a mask be worn. So I will leave it at that, and I appreciate the cooperation that the community has shown in working through on that. If I'm correct, we have no one signed up for open forum, is that correct? So we will go into new business, seeing there is no unfinished business. The first item on the new business is the acceptance of the audit of the land trust for year ending March 31st of 2021. And Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
On an annual basis, the land trust is required to submit to an audit of its financial activities of the prior year. Walters and Associates was contracted to perform this audit work. They completed this task and presented their findings to the board, the RFPC, and to Vesta Management. The audit team reported no negative findings or deficiencies and determined that the financial statements are fairly represented and conforms with generally accepted accounting principles. I move that the board accept Walters and Associates audit report of the land trust financial statements for the period 4/1/2020 through 3/31/2021.
Can I have a second? Any discussion? Did you have discussion, Ryan, that you wanted?
I would like to say that Walters and Associates did an exceptionally fine job this year as they did last year. And they were very thorough, and Vesta was very cooperative. They gave Walters and Associates what they asked for when they asked for it. There was no dissent about how things were booked, and it was a quality process all the way through on both sides. And I'm real pleased with the outcome.
And if I'm correct, they did have some depreciation changes that they made or asked Vesta to make within the financials, but they weren't material in nature, but they did a thorough job of looking at depreciation and such things as that. Am I correct?
That's correct.
When will we have the actual bound? Don't put your mic down.
We will have the actual bound copies after we return a note to them that says we have approved, we have accepted the audit. Once they have a signed document that says they've accepted the audit, they will send the final copies. What we saw as a draft,
Yeah,
the numbers will be final and it will be the same information. I would think we should have that within the next 2 weeks.
So definitely by the end of August.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for any member who wants a copy of the audited financial, accepted audited financial report, if they will contact Ma Bell, as soon as she receives it, she can provide you either a printed copy or hopefully we'll be able to have it in PDF format and you can send it out in PDF format, correct? But I know there are some people who do request a printed copy, and it will be available as soon as we get it back. And I would ask that Val, because we don't know the exact date, is when we get the final audit, that you just send out a blast to the boards that the audit is available for anyone who would like a copy of it. Keep in mind that the audit is proprietary and confidential. It is for the eyes of the person who is requesting it, and it should not be copied and distributed to other individuals. The second item is, can I have all in favor of accepting the audit? Opposed? Then Dan, would you please notify them that the board has accepted the audit so they can get it out to us? The second item on the agenda is the resolution to modify the registration fees that were established in May of 2012 by the board. In the legislature that was completed earlier this year, there was a bill proposed to increase the fee from $100 to $150. The bill was signed by the governor effective July 1st. So I would like to read to the board the following resolution for their acceptance. Is whereas Article 17, Section 7 of the bylaws of the Federation of Kings Point provides that the Federation shall be entitled to charge a fee to any owner of member associations in order to process or approval of the sale, mortgage, lease, sublease, or transfer of a unit or lot. And whereas per Article 17, Section 7 of the bylaws of the Federation further provides the fee shall not exceed $100 per transaction unless permitted by law. Whereas per Article 17, Section 7 of the bylaws, the Federation adopted to establish by resolution at a Federation board meeting on May 8th to impose a registration fee not to exceed $100 per transaction effective July 1st of 2012. And whereas Florida Statute 718.112, paragraph 2, subsection I was amended effective July 1st, 2021, which raised the maximum amount of an association can charge associated with the sale, lease, or transfer from $100 to $150 per transaction. The following resolution concerning modify is hereby adopted and effective as of the date set below. Effective September 1st, 2021. The fee originally established the 8th of May of 2012 shall be modified to a fee of $150, which shall be assessed by the Federation and paid by each owner of a member association who is selling or leasing or subleasing a unit or a lot. Such registration fee shall be due and payable to the Federation at the time of closing of any sale of a unit or lot, or upon the registration of a lease or sublease. Failure of an owner to properly disclose and register a sale, lease, or sublease within 10 days of its commencement shall constitute a violation of Article 17 of the Federation bylaws. Failure of an owner to properly and timely disclose and register a sale, lease, or sublease shall not excuse the owner from the owner's obligation to pay the registration fee to the Federation. And exemptions for the transaction fee, the modified fee shall not apply to the following transactions. Renewal of a lease or sublease after September 1st, 2021, where the initial lease or sublease was duly registered and a registration fee was timely paid to the Federation. Transactions where a mortgage is refinanced, but where the title to the unit or lot is not conveyed to a different owner. Conveyances that are completed for the purposes of effectuating the final dissolution of a marriage or probate proceeding. And 4, conveyance to a trust, limited liability company, personal representative, a spouse, an heir, or beneficiary of an owner, which is only completed for the purposes of an owner estate planning or asset protection. That is exactly the way it is done today. Use of the proceeds, it shall be the policy of the Federation to separately account for the funds collected based on Article 17, Section 7 of the bylaws of the Federation in this resolution. While the registration fees are intended to offset the administrative costs related to processing registrations, such funds shall be deposited into the reserve account for registration fees, and any monies paid to the Federation shall become the property of the Federation. Such funds may be credited to the following year's Federation budget or used by the Federation in the manner approved by the membership in accordance with Article 10, Section 7. And I have a motion to accept the resolution.
Move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? As soon as this is signed, Mr. Wilkin, would you make sure that we are ready to go on September 1st? And I'm sorry Rick left. As Rick is head of the Community Promotions Committee, I have asked Rick to make sure he notifies the real estate agents that he has established a committee with, so the real estate agents that work within Kings Point are notified that effective September 1st that the fee will increase to $150. And if anyone knows of any rental companies, and I don't know if the rental companies are a part of the organization the CPC has been working with, if you know of any rental agencies advising that the rental fee is increasing up to $150. That leaves us the third item on the approval of the replacement of the woodshop electrical panel, which I will turn over to Ginger to present on behalf of the RFEC and the woodshop.
Thank you. Okay, this is being brought for consideration before the board for funding for code required repairs and replacement on the electrical breaker panel located in the woodshop of the main clubhouse. It was brought to our attention in June when a representative from Bates Electric was brought on site to bid on the upgrade of several circuits to accommodate a new bandsaw that was purchased. Based upon the vendor's inspection and corroborated by a certified electrical engineer and then subsequently another engineer, we have several repairs and upgrades that are necessary requiring new wiring, replacement of several circuit breakers on the breaker panel in the woodshop. Due to this code violations that were identified subsequently, multiple electricians have visited the property to bid on this project and confirmed that these repairs need to be done. After evaluation of the existing electrical breaker panel, various elements were determined to be necessary. Disconnection of all line and load connections to the compromised 200 amp 42 circuit 3-phase panel. Installation of new surface mounted panel board that's code compliant. Installation of new conduit and wire from the existing circuits, and terminate to the matching circuit breaker, and removing redundant equipment, trace, and labeling on all the circuits. The bids that have been received were from Bates Electric, 6K Construction, and Power Electric. respectively, and those three bids were $7,745, $7,745, $9,360, and $6,890. Victoria is waiting for 2 additional vendors' bids to come in. And Vesta's recommendation as we offer this proposed plan of action for this unforeseen and budgeted repair is for the board to consider approval of a not-to-exceed amount of $7,745 for the repairs to the electrical breaker panel located in the wood shop of the main clubhouse to be performed by a licensed electrical contractor. This bid was chosen because the lowest bidder had some discrepancies with the other electrician's assessment, and while we are waiting for the other 2 bids, if the board approves the not-to-exceed amount, we will at a minimum be able to provide the funds for bids, but should the other 2 come in satisfactory and less, then we will take those up instead. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the expenditure of the not-to-exceed amount of $7,745 for the repairs to the electrical breaker panel located in the wood shop, the main clubhouse, to be performed by a licensed electrical contractor?
Moved.
May I have a second? Any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then Ginger, you can work with Victoria to have that panel brought up to code and the necessary work done on the panel so we don't start any fires or cause any electrical shocks within the woodworking shop. So I'll leave it to you to and Vesta to handle that going forward and report on the progress next board meeting.
Thank you very much.
That is all we have on the agenda for new business. We'll move to good and welfare announcements. And before we take good and welfare from the audience, 2 things. I would like to congratulate Jane Narden and Jim Haggerty on their appointment to the Master Board. The Master Board and the Federation Board, maybe to the shock of some of the residents, will be meeting in a joint session, a private joint session, on August 12th at the request of Jim and myself. We have arranged to meet, so congratulations to those individuals. In addition, I know that you all received the notice on the upcoming holiday festivities that the community leadership, which includes the Master and the Federation and the COA and Vesta and the First Service will be putting together, including a tree lighting ceremony and a taste, and I'm going to call it a taste of the holidays, a Kings Point taste of the holidays, which will be a number of different restaurants. During that period of time, there will be a number of raffles. We have contacted a number of our vendors, and we will be contacting them all, asking them for donations to the raffle. I can tell you that one of our landscapers has already offered to donate 3 inspections of golf carts with a company within Sun City, so residents who may want their golf cart inspected to ensure that it's working properly. There will be certificates for that will be raffled off. For those of you who like to travel and do things, one of our vendors, and I will tell you it happens to be USI, is offered to us a raffle for a 2-day stay at Bella Grande Island at the Gasparilla Inn, which is a 5-star inn on Bella Grande, which sits just south of Sarasota before Naples. It's a very exclusive location, and that raffle and item will include full meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, along with a 2-night stay, with taxes and gratuity, which will all be paid for as a part of it. That package is worth about $1,400 to $1,500, so it is something that the residents who want to travel will be able to put their tickets in, but we are continuing to meet. When I say we, it's the COA, it is the master, it's the Federation, Best and First Service, on putting together the plans for some holiday spirit and some holiday cheer and a raffle that will provide some enjoyment to the residents of the community. And as it stands today, the only people that will be entitled to participate in the raffle will be the residents of Kings Point. So we don't have to worry about outside individuals coming in and winning the raffle prizes. The Land Trust has talked, and I'm waiting for Ginger. The Land Trust has talked about also donating tickets to different shows, movie theater tickets, dinners, which would not have a great deal of expense to the community, that will also be available for that raffle. So I'm waiting for Ginger to give me the list of things we can note that will be raffled, but this is an ongoing process. But it's something that the community can look forward to. We've already told a number of vendors that we want things that the residents of Kings Point can utilize and would be willing to put money into a raffle for. The entire proceeds will be going to the Martha Mary House as a total charity. No organization in Kings Point will be making a dime off this. This is all for charity. And I just wanted to let you know that we are working on that.
Jane Norton, Okay, Jane Norton, Nantucket 2. Thank you, Jack, for your congratulations. I appreciate it. I just have a request that Alan's report, will that be put on the September agenda for the membership? Because I was quite confused trying to follow those numbers. And I think we need to see that up on the big screen for the membership.
It will, and it always is, and it will always be on the screen, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, because I have a problem with the expenses being, the transfers being used as expense. Expense means you spent something. It doesn't mean you moved it between accounts. That's a transfer. When you're talking about revenue and expenditure, revenue changes your net assets. Those transfers didn't change your net asset. And if I understood what you were saying, you're using it as revenue and expenditures, then that's not exactly correct.
Let me try, Alan. We had excess of funds from the previous year that were, as a part of our budget process for the Federation, transferred in accordance with the bylaws of using it for a succeeding year. And that money was transferred, and it's a part of the budget process that was transferred. And I think Alan was just showing where the money came from. Any other revenue that comes goes into a reserve fund, and as according to our budget, our bylaws, can only be expended for the following year's budget, which is approved by the membership, or in a manner approved by the membership. So
I was just confused how you can say it's revenue or expenditure. It's not, it's transfers between accounts.
Correct. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is. We've never said anything different in terms of putting it on the pluses and minuses. minuses. It's put in on the plus side and on the minus side with revenues and with expenses.
Okay,
but-
maybe you
but
can
you're
just
correct.
note that that's a transfer, it's not actual revenue or expenditure. I appreciate that.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Diane Daniels, and I'm the president of Southampton One. And I've been receiving a lot of complaints and great disappointment from residents in regards to the food and beverage at the bar in the South Club, specifically the increase in prices for menu items and specifically some of the bar drinks, specifically the wine, which is apparently not a good flavor at all for the wine that they order from the tap, and that their only option is to buy a glass of wine that's over $9 to be able to not have the horrific wine that they're serving from the draft. And I did taste it myself, and it is pretty bad. So I just want to know if there's someone that talk to us, or a committee, or someone that we could sit down with to discuss maybe some options so that we could appease and help some of the residents enjoy themselves here at our wonderful club.
Okay, and I'm going to say this, and please do not take it as offensive. It is not a good and welfare issue, but,
Oh, I apologize.
no, but I think it is something that needs to be addressed, and I'm going to look to Rudy. Rudy, would you make yourself available? You basically are the person responsible for, along with Andrew, who runs the South Club, as to the cost and quality of the different alcohols that are purchased and the increase in cost and why things are raising in cost. I can tell you that today, reported back to the board, that alcohol is increasing in cost and wine is massively increasing, and we don't have the capabilities of getting certain wines that we used to serve. But I think you've gone to a grocery store within the last month, the cost of food is massively increasing. Quite obviously, our costs from a land trust perspective and the South Club perspective is also increasing costs. And I know, and I think probably meeting with Rudy would be a good idea on some of the plans they have of offering what I'm going to call a senior meal instead of a large portion meal, but could also help reduce the cost to the residents of Kings Point. But Rudy, if you would stick around and get Diane's information and meet with her and a couple of her peers and give them an explanation of what is going on, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jack,
You're-
and thank you very
you're
much.
welcome.
I just want to say, anytime anybody says wine's horrific, I think it is a good and welfare issue myself, but that's me.
Only you would think alcohol was good and welfare.
There are more of us. Yes, thank you.
Matt, we know Ginger and her love of alcohol, correct?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, that's good. Good answer. Remember, she threw you on the bus in Jim Jones, so.
Sure.
Anything else? Well, seeing there's no other comments, I will accept the motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.